Hello, Dream Theater fans in India. So the day that we all have been waiting for is here, and right next to me is Jordan Rudess from Dream Theater. Nice to meet you, sir. Thanks for coming down to India.
Hello to you. Hello to all of you. Great to be here.
So I think the first question that pops up in my brain right now, and I think everyone would align with that question. First of all, thanks for coming down to India.
Yeah.
And what took Dream Theater so long to come to India?
That's a good question. I've been here 2 times before. One time about 25 years ago, right?
Okay.
And another when I was working for a company called Kurzweil that was making instruments. Okay. And the last time was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago with the Swamabumdi
Academy, Prasanna School.
Yes, Prasanna School.
Yeah.
Right, and had a great experience there. So I've been looking forward to coming back for return, and I know, obviously how much that people wanted us to come back to India. Problem is, it's very complicated because Dream Theater has a lot of gear, and to come to India, it's not like going to Europe. It's not like you go to a place and then you land there and you can get all the gear to each destination by truck and cart us around by bus. It's kind of like you have to go in and you have to come out. So it makes it complicated, and to have all the pieces lined up so it will work. It's a little bit more complex. So finally, we're able to do it.
So I remember when you were talking to media when you came to SAM, Swarnabhumi.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the production being really complicated, and we're so happy that there's a production who could bring Dream Theater down to India. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about how what made Dream Theater work? Is it that spirit, and how's that drive always alive? And we see that so alive in all of you when we see you playing.
You know what? I think that what it is that everybody in Dream Theater is really, really passionate about the music. We're all extremely dedicated musicians. That's number one. Aiming for this kind of goal of being like a virtuoso, and you can point to every person. Like most bands are backstage and they're doing whatever they do, drinking wine, talking to friends, But Dream Theater very often backstage, as an example, is practicing with a metronome. Like we don't like to broadcast that too much because we like to allow people to have the fantasy that we have girls and drugs and wild parties and all the craziness. But I guess I'm admitting today, sadly, that it's kind of a little bit boring.
I think all the musicians who are your fans and followers have the same feeling towards music. I've not seen any band who is performing and who is heavily influenced by Dream Theater. They're very serious about
very
their
serious,
music.
And that's something that has helped us to maintain our longevity as a band.
Yes.
Is that, musically we have this kind of goal, but also just personally, we're all responsible adults. We value each other personally, musically. We know we have, kind of set a very strong business, foundation around the world. And for us to distort that in any way is not what we want to do. So we want to maintain the clarity so we can keep on doing this and making music and, having it work for one another.
All of us, That's so inspiring listening to you just like that. And we were discussing this morning. I wanted to ask you about any Indian music that you listen to, specifically a genre or maybe the kind of artists that you follow, because I'm very sure you follow world music.
Yeah. Well, I've been becoming more and more exposed to different Indian music because I have this app company called Wisdom Music, and we have an app called GeoShred, and GeoShred has become a huge hit in India. So every day I get another video from another Indian musician that sends me their video playing like different kind of like Carnatic styles and all this stuff. And certainly my friend Mahesh Radhan sends me not only the things he does, but all the things that he loves. So I've been kind of like learning and getting this broader kind of vision, which is so great because, even before I recently became more involved in, with my app and all the people using it and that, I also, many years ago, I was inspired to take a few lessons from a sitar player that lived in New York. I can't think of his name right now, but he was like kind of a master sitar musician, and I took a couple months of lessons, and he taught me some rhythms and different things. And I also have another friend of mine whose name is Tom Ross, who's a professor who spent a lot of time learning, teaching Indian music styles as well as other styles. Matter of fact, the interest is that I think it was in 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence where I brought him in to work with all of Dream Theater to teach us some new things, to some new scales and ideas, and it was really wonderfully inspiring. So there's amazing music around the world, obviously, but I think that the music culture here is just so deep, and just from a personal point of view, I've always been so attracted to it that it's another reason that I'm just excited to be here, and I'm just thrilled about having this new wave of kind of inspiration for my own music, because as a fusion progressive musician, it's all about adding elements, and what better kind of culture to take in and learn from and incorporate. So this is also awesome.
That brings this to mind. You said Mahesh Raghavan. Can you tell me a little bit about the project that you are working with Mahesh Raghavan?
Yes.
Light Becomes Day. That's the name.
Yes.
I don't know if I should have said the name or not.
No, it's fine. It's fine. This is actually so Mahesh and I have been kind of working together mostly on kind of GeoShred, and it's my business, but he's been one of the main guys out there kind of just playing it, and he loves it, and marketing it in the sense of putting up his videos. Somewhere along the line, I thought to myself, you know what, I should call Mahesh and I should say, it's wonderful that you do these covers of Game of Thrones and whatever else he does, but let's do something original. I'd like to write a piece, an original piece, and then have you play on it. So I asked him about that. He was like, yes, I really want to do that. And then in talking about that and the excitement, I thought it'd be great to do it with Mahesh, but then what about having some other players? So the first thing Mahesh thought of was having this amazing conical artist, B.C. Manjanuth, I think you said.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, an incredible, really nice guy, great artist. So he was doing it, and then I was thinking, because I had played keyboard bass on the demo track for it.
Oh, the scratch track.
Yeah, the scratch track, and I thought it sounded pretty good. But then an Indian musician, sent me a video of their group, and I thought it was really great. But I was especially noticing this bass player, and I was like, who is that, and what's going on there? And so I wrote back, I said, your music is wonderful, sure, let's do something one day. Who is your bass player? So he wrote back, he said, oh, that's Mohini Day.
Oh, okay.
Said, okay, I didn't know that
girl, that kid, okay. Yeah.
So she's 20 years old. And I thought, well, I should reach out to her. What's her number? So I reached out to her. I didn't hear anything back. Something, okay, she's obviously not interested or whatever. So, but about, I think 3-4 days, somebody told me she was out with A.R. Rahman.
Yeah, she plays with A.R. Rahman.
So somehow I sent A.R. a little note, and I sent her a little note. Next thing you know, I heard back from her. She's like, oh, I'm so excited to do something with you, but I've been touring like crazy with A.R. Rahman, and this is the first chance I had to sit at my computer.
Oh, okay.
So now we have this really, really cool project.
So
October 13th, it will be released. It's a piece that I wrote that Mahesh helped me to arrange and organize and produce and mix and everything. So it's exciting. So I think it's the first of, I think, future collaborations.
Oh yeah.
Just because we enjoy it so much.
The seed for future.
Absolutely. But right now it's one very cool Prague, East meets West kind of.
So that's the theme that you're in. I saw the video also. So guys, just look out. October 13th, East meets West.
Light Becomes Day.
Light Becomes Day, that's the name. Yeah, now I don't regret telling the name out.
That's okay.
So, so I'm pretty sure that you've got this question from a lot of people. Do you think this independent music that we make, Dream Theater and a lot of bands that make, is different from film music? They both exist in two different doors.
Right.
To rephrase that question straight away, can we expect a movie from you?
So movie store kind of thing.
No, Jordan doing music movie.
The Jordan's movie, not necessarily a movie score, but
movie score would be more relevant at this point of time, maybe.
Well, I don't know. Do you know anybody who's ready to make a movie?
You've had inquiries like that for scoring movies and...
For scoring movies, yes. Although, up until recently, I haven't really, put the word out that I'm, totally, ready to do it. Okay. But nowadays, I really want to do that. You know, I spent my whole life kind of going down the door of recording and touring. Yeah. Although having kind of, the natural musical ability to do all different kinds of music, which lends itself to scoring. So now I'm feeling like I really want to start to open that door. Yeah. So if there's any amazing movie makers out there, please get in touch.
So that reminds me of how Dream Theater writes their songs. Right. One funny story that I know right now is how the riff of Dark Eternal Night came up. And the rhythm part, I know the story, but I'm not sure most of them know the story. Oh, yeah. You can say it for the fans, it would be really great.
It was a good day in the studio in many ways because I was working on, we were in this kind of large studio, and it was a live room, and then there was a back room where all the amplifiers and stuff, or the guitar amps. So John Petrucci was in the amp room doing his thing, and the sound was kind of coming through the walls a little bit, and it was this, all I heard was this incredible grunge sound. I couldn't really make out the details, but while he was doing that, I was programming. In those days, I was programming a Roland Phantom keyboard, and I was looking for something really heavy. Actually, no, let me back up. I was trying to program a very gentle, mellow sound, but I couldn't do it.
Something so contrasting.
I couldn't do it while that was happening. So I thought, well, as long as that's happening, why don't I try to capture a little bit of that spirit? So I shifted gears, and I ended up creating this really, really cool, Deep Purple kind of,
organ.
I don't know, heavy metal organ sound. And to this day, I still use that sound. But as soon as I finished programming the sound, excuse me, I'm a little cold from all the touring. But as soon as I finished programming all the sounds on the keyboard, John Petrucci walked out of the back room. He says, "Listen to this." And he starts to play. I was like, what is that? I couldn't even hear what notes they were. All I heard was... I was like, I said, I think it's cool, but I have no idea what notes you're playing, because it was so low and so heavy that my ear couldn't hear the notes. But I couldn't tell what notes they were. I was like, can you slow it down? So, but then a combination of my getting used to the tone of that and then him slowing it down, I went, oh, okay. So we started to lay that down, and then I started to enjoy it more after I understood what it really was. And I added my snarling pig sound to it, which was fun.
And the riff in the mind?
And the middle section. Yeah. So we walked in to listen to this whole part that he kind of wrote, and I all of a sudden we stopped. We're walking towards the live room again to start working again. And all of a sudden in my head I heard dun 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 dun. I went, okay, I got this idea. So I played it, and John Petrucci looked at me kind of the same way I looked at him, like, what? What is that and why? Just seemed like the craziest thing to him. Mike Portnoy, who, he's always had kind of a very broad perspective of music, being into Zappa and metal and all that. Yeah. That's cool. So I was encouraged by that. John's look was like, okay, I better shelve this riff. But Mike was like, I like that. So I said, okay, and so John was like, well, show it to me. So then when he learned the riff, and then everybody was smiling. Everybody was smiling. So we're kind of coming from a different world. These days, our worlds are more a little more connected. Yeah, but those days, we still, even at that point, still figure there's things we were figuring out about each other.
Slowly getting it in one line.
That's one thing that a lot of keyboardists and the guitarists, the differences are they're worlds apart.
Yes, it can be, because first of all, the approach,
your influence is what you've listened and what
a lot of guitarists will be thinking very pattern oriented,
Shapes.
And John Petrucci is very, very intelligent, and he's really super conscious of shapes. And he puts those to amazing use in music. So, he's coming from that direction. I'm not really coming from a shape thing, I would say, at all. I'm coming more from my ear, because I have perfect pitch, and the way I learned was just finding what I like in whatever crazy position the keyboard offers. So if I hear it in my head, I'm just going more in that way.
Yeah.
So, but the combination is great because he'll play something and I go, wow, what is that? He said, oh, it's a pattern. You know, I'm like, okay.
Because their approach, they look at it like, okay, the C major and C sharp major is one fret away. For us, it's like a whole different. C blues and go to F sharp blues.
There's nothing more different than C major and C sharp major
exactly,
on the keyboard.
Yeah.
So it's like crazy.
Perfect. So we have some fan questions right now.
Okay.
One by one. So the first question is from Sachi.
Sachi.
Yeah,
okay.
He looks like someone who's been following your solo work a lot, and I would say that question would be from my perspective. Rhythm of Time, and before that, Dregs and all other independent work. Right. After Rhythm of Time, Explorations.
Right.
After that, the Tony Levin, Marco Miniman project.
Right.
And Orchestra with Aaron Basberg, Marco Pelsi, and yourself.
Yes.
And right now, so when can we expect the next solo album?
Something else. Well, before I left on this tour, I was hard at work on a piece that basically completely toasted my computer. It's the computer's still there, but I got through about I think it's like a 28-minute progressive, wild, crazy piece. Really, I thought it was really unusual and cool. Very proggy, a lot of changes and quick things. By the time I went to play it back, the computer, every time I hit play, it plays like a couple of notes, da-da-da-da-da, and then it said, system processor can't handle it. But so I got through the piece by just saying and doing different things so I could get to each section and write it, and it worked. But when it came to playing it back, I can't even play it back. So I didn't have time to resurrect it before I left the house because I need to go back and like solo each track, and I basically need to have a computer expert who is a live-in guy because it's getting so ridiculous. But I'm working on something now, which is going to be pretty cool.
So
if I can get the computer to work, I'm going to be able to do it.
Screaming Head is still one of my favorite songs.
Cool.
Raw, and it's still like when I go to the keyboard and play, it still gives me chills when I play that riff. How did you even come up with that? That's the kind of mindset I have. So thanks, Sachi, for that question. That was Jordan answering your question.
Sachi. Good question.
James Lebry is performing at Prague Power USA next year. Is there any chance we can expect Dream Theater too?
I haven't heard anything about that, so I don't really know. Dream Theater as a whole doesn't play many of the Prague festivals.
Okay.
I guess we've always tried to, I don't know the right way to say this, but because we have a career outside of playing like Prague festivals, a lot of groups depend on those wonderful Prague festivals to get their music and their bands heard. Dream Theater hasn't really had to do that, so we're kind of separate in a way from that. So I think that's why.
Very convincing. So thanks, Roshan, for that question. John was answering that
for that one.
We have Shamir. This is like a Shamir.
Shamir.
Yeah,
hello, Shamir. How are you?
So Shamir is asking me, when it comes to these virtuosic unisons and instrumental solos that you and Petrucci write, sometimes which is followed by the drums also.
Right.
Who writes these riffs? Is it just one band member writes it down, charts it, and just gives it to the band, or the band sits together? And
usually, John Petrucci and I will have a very good time going back and forth writing those kind of riffs. Occasionally, I'll write one myself, or he'll write one himself. But a lot of them come up with kind of a cooperation, where he'll play like da-da-da-da-da-da, and I'll go da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then we go, okay. And I'm sitting there like busy charting it, and he's busy memorizing it, and we kind of assemble these riffs that way.
That's so I can have a vision of what would be happening when you and John are sitting in there.
And actually, what's interesting about it is that sometimes it gets funny because we get ahead of ourselves because we get so many ideas. And, I'm writing like a madman, and he's coming up with it, and I'm like, and then I can remember at least 2 or 3 times where we'll just laugh because it does get funny.
I'd like to ask a question relating to that. A lot of bands, they play for 1.5 hour sets or 2 hour sets. You're playing for 3 hour sets, and how do you guys remember? And I just keep flowing. I know in a lot of other interviews of Dream Theater also people have asked this question.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I will admit that I use my lovely technology, my iPad, and I have some notes there, which help me with a lot of things. notes if I need it. But very often for me, the hard part about playing a 3-hour set is where I switch patches. Because I might have, like in Breaking All Illusions, I might have 50 patches.
Yes, I know that.
And they happen in specific parts, and I have different instruments in different places on the keyboard. So it's not like just memorizing the music and just playing it. It's a lot of other stuff. So I use tools to help do that.
Yeah, and to add that, you said the song Breaking All Illusions, in which in the middle part there's a flute.
Oh yeah,
over that part is after that, that's so like that's the best example to say that how switch, you know,
a lot of switches, yeah, a lot of quick.
And you
quick
just go
and I do it with just a foot pedal. It's easy in a way, but it's got to be timed really well, so the last note goes right into the next patch.
And you make sure that these two patches that you're shifting one to another, they do stay like, there's a reverb that stays still the next patch.
Oh yes. Well, the Kronos keyboard, the chord Kronos is amazing at that, because none of the effects get interrupted. It's like, you know, in my
they all live in
experience,
their own environment.
They all live in their own environment. So I can have a string reverb trailing over, and meanwhile switch to a heavy organ sound, and nothing gets interrupted. It's the first time with the Kronos that I've ever had that experience. The last, you know, few years of using this particular instrument. Before that, there were other compromises, like the synthesizer voices would continue, but maybe the effects would glitch if I changed the effects. And then there was one instrument I used where if you kept the same effects, you were okay, but the voices would steal. So finally, we have an instrument that the voices remain, the effects remain, you can hold a patch, switch sounds, and then hit the next one, and everything is cool.
Purposely like expands your mind and sees what is there.
Yeah.
So while you're doing all this, do you notice the audience and how much they're enjoying? And
I try to, yeah. Sometimes we get very, very busy, you know, doing what we're doing. I mean, it's a little harder for me because I'm in the kind of more back, not like a guitar who can be like right in your face. So, but yeah, I definitely take time to look at the audience.
So we have one last question, which is from Dominic. Pretty much the same question that I first asked you. What keeps an artist engaged with music for so long? How does this fire stay alive? If you can just say the answer one more time.
Yeah, so I mean, for me personally, I mean, music, ever since I discovered like playing the piano and music, I've been very like going down one path, very in a very focused, you know, steady way, and it's always been the thing that I've loved so much. So, you know, what's interesting is that if I meet a young musician today, the first thing I'll tell them is, it's so great you're into music, wonderful, but make sure that you also have other things that you can do, because the music business is ridiculous, especially nowadays when everybody thinks they can get music for free. Everybody can. No thanks. We want to hear a song, you call it up on YouTube. Everybody is, you know, quote unquote guilty of that because it's just all there. You know, but it's created a tremendous problem in the industry, so it makes it harder for young musicians to make a living, which is so very sad. But anyway, forgetting about that part of it, you know, my passion and my love for music has kept me like in this, because it's the way, it's like my main language, probably even more than like
you've
speaking.
been living your life.
It's the way if I want to express myself really deeply, then I'll sit at the piano and I'll play and I'll be able to really say what I want to say. I would do that sooner than I would like to, you know, do a video of myself talking about something. I would feel more comfortable expressing my feelings at the piano. So for me, it's just been a way of life, and there's no other choices really. Especially because mostly I'm good at playing music.
So that was Dominic. Really, thank you, Dominic, for that question.
Thank you, Dominic.
So
good question.
With that, we've come to sadly.
I have one more question.
Sorry, one more question.
Okay.
So recently I've read that all the guitars of Gibson and Fender, the sales have been going down dramatically. And I've been listening to a lot of producers like Hans Zimmer and a lot of other movie producers. They've been saying all you need is a computer to make music with all samples and everything. So what do you think these wooden instruments and wind instruments, like organic instruments, are they dying down eventually? And
I think that everything is obviously in a state of change. I have heard the same thing about the guitars, although I've spoken to some people. Luckily, when I asked John Petrucci about that, he said his brand of guitars is going up.
Yes.
This is good. But yeah, I think there's something going on in the world of music and instruments, especially because nowadays, given technology, you can get amazing instruments like GeoShred on iOS or whatever. And so, you know, and it costs, what, $24? So if you're a young person, you want to get into music, instead of bothering your parents for like, you know, $200, maybe you bother them for like $20. I mean, there's many good sides to that. There's bad sides to that as well. It's hard to make a living when you're selling something for $20. However, but the state of affairs here is that's what's going on. So, personally, I think that there's still magic, and I think most people agree, in an actual instrument that resonates in your body, like, you know, a guitar, or certainly a piano. Piano is my main love, you know. I have a beautiful Steinway piano at home. There's nothing that can really replace that for me, you know, right now. This is what it is. But yeah, we watch things change and try to adapt and understand what it is.
Perfect. So that sadly brings an end to the interview. Thanks for watching. So in few hours from now, we'll be watching Dream Theater live at MMRDA grounds. Thank you all for just watching the video. Thank you, John.
It will rain like crazy.
I don't think so. Rain or whatever happens, we'll just be there. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Stan. First of all, thank you so much.